Good morning, everyone. My name is Deirdre Denman, and I am the Marketing Coordinator for EandM. Thank you for attending our Learn in 30 webinar this morning titled Secure Remote Access Made Easy. After the webinar, we will be doing a short Q&A. Please type any questions or comments into the Q&A box, the chat box, or email us at webinar@eandm.com. I'd like to introduce your presenters for today, Hardik and Chester Yucinta. Hardik is a Siemens product specialist at EandM, and Chester Yucinta is an application engineer with Siemens Industry. I will first turn it over to Hardik to get us started this morning. Good morning, Hardik.
Hey, good morning, Deirdre. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'll get started. And you can see the slides also, correct?
Correct. I can see your slides as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so secure remote access, right? Here is our typical plant floor or the factory. We have different devices, PLCs, HMIs, drives, conveyors, robots, and imagine everything is working fine and everything is smooth. But we often know that things also sometimes break down and we need to troubleshoot them. So let's say for some reason we cannot go there, or there is whatever issue we want to troubleshoot remotely, right? So wouldn't it be nice if we could remote in from convenience of our house or wherever we are and directly access, and not just access, but have secure remote access to all these devices on our plant floor so that we can troubleshoot remotely and quickly and get it back up and running faster. So here are some questions when we talk about remote access or even selecting the technology for it. So the number one question would be that, hey, is there all these devices have an Ethernet RJ45 LAN connection so that we can connect to it? Is there cellular coverage at the machine? So let's say there is no Ethernet connection. Can we connect to it via cellular connection? Also, what do we want to use it for? Do we want to download the programs? Do we want to use it only for connecting to the PLC? Or we want to have full access to all the devices like the PLC, HMI, drives, or any other Ethernet-based devices like circuit breakers, energy meters, or robots, or even cameras, right? So how many devices do we want to manage and see? Do we want a central server so that everything we have, all our assets and everything is on one single simple dashboard so we can quickly, easily see what's going on our overall system? We also, customers want to send some data back to the headquarters or the server. So is there any requirement for data collection to a remote site? And then wouldn't it be nice if it was literally plug and play so that there was no one on site and you could remote in directly whenever you want? Also, but not everyone likes that. Sometimes some OEMs or some end customers are worried that, hey, I don't want anyone just for safety reasons or security reasons just logging in any on-site personnel present, right? So you don't want either that option too, right? So what Siemens has is we have options for and solutions for all of this, and I'll go over the different options. So here are some hardware options. Siemens has the Scalon series, that's for the networking products. The S is for security. M is for mobile. That's the 4G LTE version. And then there is CP, which is the communication processors. They're the cards that look like the PLC, the 1500 and the 1200 design. And they snap in directly to the backplane of the PLC. So the focus for today are the two devices, which is the Scalon's S615 and the M876. So the S device is for security. It has built-in firewall. It supports VPN. It supports NATing, NAT, which is network address translation. I'll go over it a little bit. It supports 100 Mbps throughput for firewall and routing. Also, it's all integrated within TI Portal. So it's nice, you don't need a separate software. But not just that, it has a web server built in, so you don't have to use TI Portal. You could simply just use a web browser, put in the IP address, and set up the whole device from a web server itself. M876-4. So this is the 4G LTE version. This is pretty nice. It does the same thing that the Scalon's device does, firewall, VPN, netting. But instead of providing internet access through Ethernet port, internet access is provided through 4G connection. And both of these devices, as you see, has Ethernet ports on it. So they all both have 4 Ethernet ports. And of course, you can add a switch, an unmanaged switch to get additional ports. Now, a lot of manufacturers have the hardware for secure remote access. But what's unique about the Siemens solution is whenever you get a hardware, most of the customers have issue getting the right SIM card or getting the data plan. If you take this hardware or go to Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile store and say, hey, I have this Siemens device and it's a Scalens device and my SIM card's not working, can you help me or give me a SIM card that works? The store people or the regular cell phone providers don't really know this industrial hardware. There are different data plans for it. But now we have a whole complete bundle solution, Siemens part number. So you can select from different data options, whether Verizon is good network or an AT&T network at your site. There's flexible data options. So you can select the amount of data you want to use per month, 512, 1 gig or 5 gig. And then you can select a plan for 12 months, 24 months. And then there is both options for a public IP address or a private gateway. So you can get static IP or just public IPs. So this is really nice. It gives you a complete solution for the whole connectivity for remote access packages. All right, so the software for the VPN that we have is SINEMA RC. That's the SINEMA Remote Connect. The really cool thing about this software is this is your own server. So you have to simply create a server. And I know at times when someone says, hey, you have to create a server, it kind of gets scary. It's a very easy and simple to install a server. It comes in a DVD and you get a certificate for a client when you buy the server. So 4 connections are free and included. You simply boot that DVD and run it on your PC. Make sure it will wipe out the Windows if there is Windows on the server. And it will just install. You hit next, 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 and it becomes a black box. And then you just access it via another web browser. And the cool thing about that is now it's connected on the internet. So you can be anywhere and then you can access your server remotely from wherever you are, add more devices, connect to devices, and pretty much, sorry, and see all your devices through a simple dashboard. So here is how just a snapshot of what the web-based management tool looks like. As you can see, we have all our devices here with all the IP addresses and the remote subnets. And it will show you everything that, okay, what device was online, what location it is, how is it all set up, who logged in, and there is a complete log of everything. So if someone is trying to log in, it will create and everything is logged for you and it's easy to set up. So it's simple 2 steps to create the device on the server. We simply say we want to add a device. It will create a unique device ID number. You define a name, whatever you want to call it, at plant A, press, and SNS 615. Every device needs a password. So you use this same password on the server and then copy paste this password when you set up the actual physical device. And as you can see, there's a lot of different options that we discussed, S series, M series, communication processors, LTE, and some RTUs also. So you can select and pick the right device. If it's a cellular version, you can put in the GSM, that's the cell phone number, and then just hit next. And then it takes you to the second page, which is the network settings. You could also create your own templates. So if you know that, okay, most of my devices are set up in this way, you save it as a template and then just load the settings from the template. But what pretty much it is asking is, okay, what will be the subnet that this device is going to talk to? So if I know my IP addresses for my devices are 192.168.20.1, I can just create that subnet. And then what's really nice is this 1:1 net feature. So let's say you are an OEM and you're shipping systems to customer A and they have 5 machines and customer B that have 10 machines or whatever the number of machines are. Then what happens is to talk to each machine and each device, everything needs a unique IP address so that it can be on the same network. But because all these devices support the 1:1 NAT, we can create a virtual subnet. We can create a virtual IP address, let's say 172.17.3.0. So this way, when I want to go to machine number 3, let's say, I say 172.17.3.0, and then it forwards me to 192.168.20.1 or 2 subnet. So it's pretty nice. You can have the same TI portal project with the same IP address on all your devices and just maintain one project. And with netting, you can have multiple devices or machines with the same IP addresses, and we'll just forward it to the specific actual subnet. And then on the bottom, you can see, okay, I know I have a 1518 PLC and the last digit is .10. So see how it created a virtual node IP address and it's kind of grayed out. So it automatically creates this IP address for it. So when I want to talk to a .10 for my 1518 PLC on, let's say, machine number 3, I'll just use this IP address, and we'll see more later on. So this is a very nice and useful feature also. So again, to set up, all we have to do is just put in the device name and the password, select the device type, and just put in an IP address, the subnet that it's going to be in. And that's it. That's all you need to do to set up the server side. Here is the client. So this is how, when you log in on the client, you can see a complete dashboard even of everything on your network on the client. All you do is click establish VPN tunnel and it will connect everything. And then there's also option on the right side where you can say, okay, I want to enable communications to this, yes or no, or the netting is enabled, or you can disable the communication. There's also this little homepage icon. If you click that, it will take you to the actual device, the S615 or the M876 web page. Once you're connected, you can simply test it out and make a quick connection test, and it will take you to different settings on the device. As you can see, all the names that we were seeing on our server side, and also this is user specific. So depending on who is logged in, you can create rights for different users, so they will see different devices. And then we'll show you the VPN address, the subnet name, what is the remote subnet, so different IP addresses, .18, .20, .29. And then some of them have virtual subnets, some of them don't. And that will also show you where all these different devices are. So let's say if I don't remember what was my HMI IP address, because I entered it in my server, I know that my HMI is at .12, so then I can just use that .12 node virtual address to go to my HMI. In this case, there is only a PC, and it's at 1.1, so it's at, let's say, location number 5. So now I know that this way I can go to my PC. So it's very handy and useful to get the SINEMA RC client. Not only the username and password, there's different options for security also. So you can even enable a smart card login, or you can export the certificates. So certificates are nice. You can load the certificates on your phone with OpenVPN. And what it does is you would need the username and password and the certificate. So let's say if someone can guess your password, but still without the certificate, they can't even log in. So they need an actual certificate file. So there's more layers to security for it. So here is a quick demonstration of how a system can be laid out. So on the remote site or the main office, maybe you have your SINEMA RC server running, right? And then through the internet, here are all our machines. So let's say you have customer A, customer B, customer C, customer D, multiple customers, or like I mentioned, even with single customer, you have multiple machines and you have 4 or 5 machines. Each of the machines can have one of the scale and security devices or the cellular one, and then they can all make a VPN secure tunnel to your server. And then from your laptop or your service open VPN on your phones or tablets, you can also create a VPN tunnel, and then you are all on the network and you can easily access any of these machines remotely from wherever you are. So we talked a little bit about Ethernet and Profinet versions, but what if there are older systems that are connected on Profibus? So you see this purple. So usually purple is Profibus and green is Profinet. So Siemens has a new device called an M804PB. PB is for Profibus. So now there is a device that sits in SINEMA RC software, and then you can also remote into your Profibus PLCs. So this is very unique, and a lot of customers like this feature. So not just OpenVPN, this supports all the VPN protocols. So IPsec and SSTP are also supported. And as you can see, I know this is like a busy screen, but there's a lot the software can do, and you can merge it with your existing IT VPN infrastructure too. So this is what a typical system would look like, right? So you would set up your server, and from the internet, your server is always connected. And then this yellow and red lines are the VPN tunnel, and green is industrial Ethernet. And then once you're connected to all your devices, you can have access to your multiple PLCs. And then from your laptops or iOS or Android, you can remote into your server, make remote connection, secure connection, and then get to your scale-ons devices or your PLCs. Okay, so everything looks good, but what happens when something goes down and you get something right out of the box? And once you have something that's out of the box, there is no IP address assigned to it. We all know that for us to talk to a device, we have to make sure our laptops are in the same subnet, and both the devices, the laptop and the hardware, has an IP address assigned. But right out of the box, it is 0.0.0, or there is no IP address. So typically what would happen is either you have to set up the IP address from the software, or what if the customer is there and you directly drop ship this new hardware and the customer doesn't even know how to set up the IP address. So in that scenario, you cannot log in remotely because it doesn't have an IP address. So this is a very unique feature that Siemens Scale-ons devices has that no one else really has. It's called the DCP, Discovery and Configuration Protocol. And this is all directly through the S615 or M876 on the web page. So no separate software needed. Once you make the connection, like I showed the little home icon on the client, it will take you to the web server. And then you just look for the DCP under settings, and then you can just click discover. Once it will discover that, okay, on port number 3 and port number 4, and the scan is done through the MAC addresses. So it knows that, okay, here is a S7-1200 PLC, and you will notice everything is 000, and the status is none, versus this is discovered. So I can type in whatever IP address and Profinet name I want, and then just hit set values. And once I hit set values and refresh again, as you can see, I give it the name for Profinet as PLC1, IP address at .12 with the gateway, and then it says configure. So this is a very unique feature that the Siemens devices, Scale-ons devices have. All right, I'm gonna pass it over to Chester now so that he will show you a live demo on how to connect through the server, and he will make the client connection, and then we can go online with TI portal, and then he will also show you the DCP mode on how to set it up. All right, I'll pass it off to Chester now.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And Chester, I just passed along the presenter to you.
Okay.
And we can see your screen.
Great. So hello, everyone. What we're going to do here is just log into our little private network. I'm going to log in as Fred, and we're going to make our connection into our SINEMA Remote SINEMA RC server. So this is the client software, no different than probably many of you who are working at home right now use a VPN. So use a VPN to connect, that's all this is. So what you see here is kind of a simplified version of what Hardik was showing. You in the slide you saw node names and node addresses and all that. This is really the most simple type of solution, and the thing to focus on here is the remote subnet, because the thing we're showing is that in this case, let's say I make a machine, and the machine is always, my PLC for the machine is always 10.10.10.2, for instance. And whether it goes to site 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's always the same IP. So that's why this remote subnet's always the same. I don't really care about virtual subnet and VPN. That's kind of automatically set, and I don't really worry about that so much. So all I know is that's the address I want. And then I use this one-to-one NAT, or the NATing feature. What this means is that I'll be able to connect to the 10.10.10.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any of those sub addresses will all be able to be connected. So that's the mode I want to enable. So before I actually establish a tunnel, I want to show you here in my TI portal project, I've got a PLC, and its IP address is this 10.10.10.2. And just before I try to go online or make my VPN connection, I'll actually try to go online right now without any kind of tunnel or anything. So This shows that I'm connected to my regular Ethernet card of my PC, and I'm going to see if I can connect. So what you'll note is that it's going to try to establish a connection. It's going to search, and clearly, since I'm not connected because this thing is sitting somewhere else, not on my network, it's going to try to connect, and ultimately it will fail to connect. So it failed to establish this connection. But now if I just go back to here and I establish my VPN tunnel, I've set up, this is the place I want to connect to, establish my VPN tunnel, this will get connected. So now I've made my connection. I go back into where I just was in the portal. Try this again. And notice I didn't change my Ethernet card. It still thinks I'm just trying to connect through my local wired network, right? So it automatically just kind of redirected everything through the VPN tunnel. It now made the connection. If I go online, I'm online with the PLC. And at this point, I could do configuration changes or just all the normal PLC things you do, whether it's editing, downloading, changing, modifying. That's all. It's as if I were sitting at the machine. So back to our SINEMA RC client, Hardik kind of showed this where even from this interface, since everything that we're talking about is a web-based configuration, if I wanted to look at the configuration of the server, for instance, I can go there. I can open this up and log in. And this is the configuration of the server. This is the 615 device that we are connected to. I'm just doing this just to show you. And it's really no harder than saying, there is the address of my devices I want to connect to. And I want to use this one-to-one NAT. I didn't need to necessarily add all the nodes and all this other thing. I just made that connection. Let's back out. All right. So one of the other things that we showed, or that Hardik was mentioning, is this remote DCP. So what I have here is I've got a drive out there that I want to connect to. And the IP address and all that is 10.10.10.8 address. But it's kind of a new device, or somebody just pulled this unit from somewhere else, or it didn't have an IP address. So how do I connect to something that doesn't have an IP address? Well, since it's a Profinet device, I can go to the unit itself, or to the 615, the remote device, the remote scans device, and log in. So there's the device I'm connected to. I have this feature of being able to do a DCP. And right now, by default, it only shows the PLC, but I try to do a discovery. And it sits there and says, oh, wait, I see a device out there. I do have a drive. It has no name, a Profinet name. It doesn't have any IP address or anything. So I don't even have to set the name for this particular example. But if I say, I know I need a device that is that address, that's the subnet mask, and here's my gateway. I just do that and hit the set value button. And now, once I have that, I can come in here and go online with my drive. Connected. So now I can do whatever I was going to do, download configurations and whatnot. In this case, I could even come in here, activate the drive. And you can possibly you guys can hear it running just turned on behind me. Wouldn't say starting and stopping drives remotely is always the best thing to do in a real situation, but you can if you wanted to. Stop that. And it's basically as simple as that. We did this, we've set it up. Now we have a device that we can then go on and configure and download to and everything we need to do. So that is basically it. It's like I said, it's quite simple. I will turn it back over to Hardik to kind of pick up all the final points here and any questions and answers.
Thank you, Chester.
Okay, Hardik. You should have the presenter role now.
Okay.
And we see your screen.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the top 3 keyways that we saw today for this is that, hey, it is easy to set up. It's a simple installation to set up the server. Most important thing that we saw is setting up an IP address and the device name remotely. So if anything is right out of the box, brand new, you could still access that or add new stuff remotely without even being there present or without asking the customer to do anything for us. And then it's a complete solution. So it's not just the hardware and we say, hey, good luck, try to figure out the SIM card connectivity or internet options and we don't know. So it's a complete solution. We provide the SIM cards and the connectivity options. So it's a nice complete package, easy to set up, and it's very quick and fast, as Chester showed us. If there are any questions, you can type them in the chat box. And I'm not sure if any questions already came in, but Deirdre can let me know if there were questions that came in.
Thank you, Hardik. We did have a couple of questions come in. So we'll start with the first couple. So does my data go through any third-party server?
Oh, great question. Yes. So the answer to the question is no, because you are creating your own server. It's on your site, on site. So it doesn't go through any third-party servers or any third-party companies. So it's your data, it's all secured, and you are in charge of everything.
Okay. And then does the server need to be a high-end PC, and would we need to spend a lot of money on the server?
No, the server does not need to be a high-end PC. Think of it like it makes it a little black box router box. Actually, I have the server running on like $100 stick PC. It doesn't require much memory and RAM or much hard drive space. You could also put in the server on a virtual machine on a VM with like 2 or 4 GB RAM and just use Hyper-V on your existing server and just add a new VM to it. So it does not require full-blown high-end server.
Okay. So for the DCP, is that available for all manufacturers or just Siemens?
No, so none of the competitors have this DCP function. Only the Siemens devices have this option, and we could do it because of the Profinet name also. So only the Siemens devices.
Well, that's the browsing part of it. This is Chester again, but in terms of supporting that feature, it's a Profinet thing. So it can be third-party devices that are Profinet, and they will support the DCP functionality. The devices, right? Not the networking stuff, but the devices themselves.
Well, thank you, Chester. Yeah, so if it's an eProfinet device, and what I guess the question was, it can be a non-Siemens third-party device. As far as it's a Profinet device, you could use the function.
What is the TIA portal version used? If it's V16 used, are there features available for the V15?
You can use any version of TIA portal. This SINEMA RC runs independent of TIA portal. So it doesn't matter what TIA portal version you have. I'm not sure Chester was showing maybe version 15 or 16, but it works with all TIA portal versions.
Yeah, I was running version 16, but as Hardik mentioned, it's fully compatible with pretty much whichever version.
And then just to add, it's not just remote access to Siemens PLC or a Siemens device. It's just providing you VPN access to the Ethernet ports that are connected. So any device, even a PC or a non-Siemens PLC or a non-Siemens device, whatever is connected. So it's pretty much providing you network connectivity with remote access and secure connectivity.
Is there a similar solution to work with only locally, something like an access point Ethernet equipment?
Yeah, so the Skillens product family has different switches, managed, unmanaged, and Wi-Fi access points and clients. So you could do this locally.
For the SRC server, what are the requirements for it, for the server?
So it doesn't run on Windows. So if there is a Windows in the background, it will wipe it off. I don't remember the exact specs, but I can send the detailed specs document on what are the requirements. But I think it's like 2 or 4 GB RAM and even less than a Core i3 processor. So it's not much. Like I mentioned, I'm running off on a stick PC, it's like $100 stick PC. So, and it runs fine.
If you activate a drive remotely and you lose connections, will the system recognize the loss of the connection and shut the drive down?
Yes.
So yes, and then also for security reasons on TI portal, if someone presses a spacebar, it will also disable the connection. So if the connection is lost, TI portal will automatically lose the connection.
And then what is the advantage with using Siemens Remote Access with Siemens PLC and PROFINET?
So we saw the advantage. It's easy to set up. You are in charge of your data, and it's a complete solution with a complete dashboard. If you have multiple devices, multiple sites, you could easily manage everything from wherever you are, and then you can troubleshoot remotely. So let's say if machine goes down and someone says, "Hey, something's wrong," and rather than taking your laptop and going right in front of the machine, or if you have to travel rather than spending money on flights and hotels, you could simply log in remotely from wherever you are and go online. So it makes it very easy to troubleshoot, very quick to troubleshoot, and you can be back up and running in no time.
Okay, I think that concludes our question portion of the webinar. Thank you, Chester and Hardik, and everyone who attended today. If you would like to review any portion of this webinar, a recording will be available on our YouTube channel and on our website at EandM.com this afternoon. Thank you again for attending, and we hope to have you again at one of our future webinars.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.